Morning. Good morning, everybody. I hope you've had a really lovely break over Easter. I know I had a really lovely week off, which was such a joy. I think reflecting on it, it's one of the few times I've actually taken a proper break and not had looked at my laptop, not done any work things. Um, and yeah, it was just some really lovely quality time with my daughter and, that bit of making memory kind of thing. And it was an interesting thing for me that, how children can just be so honest when we were preparing or talking about going away, that she had said to me, and mummy, I don't want to see you working. So it's obviously sort of clear to her that I do work a lot. And I guess being self-employed and a single parent, I'm not doing a 9 to 5. And so she does see me working, which I think is a good thing, but I think it's also good to be seen to down tools and that it's needed and okay to really take time off. And I guess all of this is a preamble to doing our quarterly review today, because what really made it possible to completely be relaxed about taking a week off is that I'd been much more organized than I usually am, and that I had sort of pre-written and scheduled some emails to go out, that I had scheduled some social media, that I'd got all the jobs done that I knew I needed to do so I could actually take time off with a clear conscience. And I think if we don't do these kind of reviews and planning and setting goals and deadlines, it's hard to get a sense of whether it's okay to take a break. When we're in that kind of day by day, week by week kind of hustle, then I know for me there was always that anxiety about taking some time off because what if a client got in touch or I missed some work or something came up. So I'd always feel that need to check, or if I wasn't, would be a bit stressed. And so therefore not really embracing the time off. It would always come with a tinge of anxiety. So this was a really nice change to know that my jobs were done. I'm always reviewing my income and expenses anyway, so I knew financially I was okay, that I could budget to take this time off. And so I guess, I wanted to share something with you all today, because we have just done was the end of the financial year. I know people may work 2 different years, might work more on a calendar year rather than the financial year. But having just finished March, it's good to have a look at that quarter and see what's working, what's not, and how we can refine our business and just keep tweaking, keep revising, keep steering. I think having a business is a bit like having a boat. You might set off in a direction, but the waves and the winds can keep taking you off course. So we need to keep checking and making these little adjustments that we are still on course, because it's very easy for things to drift without us really noticing. Opportunities might come up that we say yes to. We might start getting into slightly bad habits, or we might be putting energy into something that's not really working. And so, we can over time just gradually drift off course. And then we go, oh, how did I end up here? so so I think it is really important to be doing these kind of reviews. So in some ways, it's a very simple process. You know, I have a bunch of questions to go through. But also, I would really invite you to have it not just be a head process. And I think part of the problem that we can have when we're thinking about our business and what we should be doing to try and be a bit more successful or have more clients or somehow get a bit more time, is we're often doing things in our head. And this has been my experience, is that I'm great at planning and ideas. And so I can be very in my head, and on paper it works. But when it hasn't come from a very kind of deep felt sense, then these plans generally don't work, because we don't come from that place of really following our kind of soulful path or following our real passion. And so there's less kind of instinct and desire to keep up with this plan that our intellect has created. And we also have to keep in mind, you know, our individual energy patterns as well, which has been another thing that's taken me a ridiculous amount of time, really, to really embrace, to really weave in energy cycles and knowing yourself. I think knowing what your own strengths and limitations are is a really important part of this process, because it's all very well making a plan about, you know, how much social media presence you're going to have and how much content you're going to create, or how many classes you want to teach and how much marketing you're going to do. And on paper, that can work really well, but not if it's not aligned with your strengths and limitations. And so this is the thing about the danger of trying to copy someone else's model. So we might look around us and see somebody who seems really successful, and you think, oh, well, that must be the way to do it, so I'll do it like they do. But if it's not your heart's desire, is the first thing that's going to make that difficult to achieve. But also, you are a different person. So, you know, and again, this is something that I made mistakes with earlier on in my career, is looking around at people who seem successful and think, oh, well, that must be the way to do it. But they were people with a different personality, much more energy than me. And so the things that they found easy, I found really hard and draining. And so I couldn't keep up with that business model. So it's really important when we go through the questions, and I'll go through them more quickly here, but re-watch the video. If you want to do the review, then perhaps play back again another time and just hit pause after the questions and spend a little bit of time just getting into your body, get into your heart, into your gut, and try and feel some of the answers as well as thinking them, so that you start to create something that is really aligned with what you love and who you are, that's going to match your energy levels, and it's going to be something that really brings you joy as well. Because even if we do find a plan that we can make work and we might be making money, it still might not be bringing the joy. So you need to be building a business that, you know, allows you to experience the things that you really love, and do a bit less of the things that you really don't love, because we all have those things. Okay, so let's just, for now, take a moment just to become very present. So wherever you are watching this, just sitting comfortably. So whatever position you would find really comfortable for a pranayama or a meditation practice, just sitting comfortably, preferably with a pen in hand, so you can be ready to write down things that pop up from a very intuitive space. So aligning the spine, letting the shoulders release, just soften your face, relax the eyebrows and the jaw, soften the belly, and feel the contact of the seat beneath you or the floor beneath you, feeling what is in contact with the ground. And it may help to place a hand over the belly, a hand over the heart. Feel free to close your eyes or just find something lovely to gaze upon and connect in with your breath. So just being really present in this moment. Lovely. Good. So just taking a deep breath now. And let that go and opening your eyes. Good. So the first part of our review is focusing on the positive. I think it's very easy to always be aware of what we're unhappy with, and we often forget to recognize what we have achieved. So just looking back from the beginning of the year, the first 3 months, just writing down what went well for you this last quarter. You know, what were your successes? What were the things that you feel proud of? What was your best achievement? Had you set some goals before and did you achieve them? You know, even just very simple things. You might have set a goal to send a monthly newsletter and you did it. Like, write these things down, because it's part of training, you know, our thinking and our emotional reaction, to really recognize, start writing down every little thing that you did well, classes that went really well. Did you plan some really gorgeous classes that your students loved? Like, nothing is too small to go on your list of all the good things that you did, all the things that went well, everything that you achieved, all the jobs you got done, things you feel proud of. And give yourself permission to celebrate. So if you haven't already, maybe sometime this week, a small something to celebrate your success, to reward yourself for everything you've done. So we're just creating that kind of more successful mindset. So we need to recognize when we've done well. So even though you might not be exactly where you want to be now, it doesn't mean that everything you've done so far has been a failure. So recognize the things that are going well, that are good. Okay. And this then leads into the next question, which is looking at what is going well in your business generally. Like, do you have one of your classes that are regularly well attended? Do you have some regular one-to-one clients? You know, all the different aspects of your business. You know, which aspects of your business are going well? What are things that are working for you, even on a practical admin level? You know, have you perhaps tried a new booking system and that's working very well for you? Like, what are the things that what aspects of your business, either in your delivery or in the admin side, or on the marketing side, like what's working, what is going well, making a note of those. And you may need to pause this and perhaps get some data. You know, maybe you need to look at your website and see, has your traffic increased? Or looking at, and we'll come into numbers later, but yeah, looking at things that are going well. Good. And then connecting in with, of all the things in your business, and again, this is partly in the teaching side, but also in the admin side and marketing side, like that business side as well. So of all of those things, you know, what aspects do you love? What are the things that make you kind of go, oh yay, I love doing this? You know, and for some people who maybe love writing, it might be that you really love doing blog posts, or you might be one of those people who really loves making reels and doing Instagram stuff. It might be that there's a particular class that you teach that's aimed at a certain group of people is the one that gives you the biggest, oh, that's my favorite class. I love teaching my pregnancy class, or I love teaching my, you know, older folk chair class. What's the thing that gives you that real yay? What are the things that really bring you joy? Because these are the things that we want to hone in on. So finding what are the things that you really love. You know, and this connects in with, you know, your why. I can't remember the name of the author now, but there's a famous book, it's like Find Your Why. And it's like, why are you a yoga teacher? Why do you do this at all? And somewhere underneath lots of mental chit chat, there will be a core reason, and connecting with that will be the thing that will really help your business thrive. You know, and sometimes this is why I say we can be pulled around by opportunities where people might say, oh, you know, there are people here looking for a yoga class. And so we may think, oh, well, I'll be mad to turn down some business. But if it's pulling us away from our why, in the long run, it might be spreading ourselves too thin, and where we're better off just really honing in on the things that we really love and want to be doing and building those. And it does mean sometimes turning down opportunities, but if we say yes to everything, we can't make all of those things work. So finding, just reconnecting with what you love. And you need to do this periodically because that thing may shift over time. You know, my reasons, or what I loved when I first qualified, is different to now because I've learned more, I've had more experience, I'm different, I'm in a different phase of life, things that I'm more interested in have, you know, and it's a slow shift over time, and that's completely fine. We're allowed to change and evolve. So what do you love right now? What is it that gives you your spark? And sometimes when we don't check this, then we have, because something might have been our big spark 10 years ago, 15 years ago, but that might not be the right thing anymore. But in our head, we've gone, oh, well, I'm this type of yoga teacher and this is my thing. And we're still trying to make it work, even though deep down it's not our thing anymore. And so, you know, sometimes we just need to be really honest with where we're at and what we want. And this is going to make you more successful. So having written those down, it's also then good to look at what have been challenges that have come up this last quarter. Have there been issues, kind of you felt you run into a brick wall with some things, have some things been difficult? You know, what are your challenges? What seems to be not working so well? So writing a few examples of those, or again, when we're sort of connected in, which hopefully we are, you know, there may just be something that almost blurts out. It's like, oh, that thing, that's been difficult. And again, within all of that, what are the things that, you know, give you that heart sink that you don't love? Like, you know, or even give you that dread. You know, I know for a lot of people that might be doing your accounts. Yeah, for some people it's around marketing. For some people it might be that there's a particular class that you don't like because maybe not so much from your students, but maybe the overall structure of it, or you know, it's in a venue that you don't like, or there's difficult people to work with, or you know, you're working in a studio that's not treating you well, or you know, what are the things that are not working for you? And what are the tasks that you don't relish? They may be essential and we'll find other ways, but just being really clear again about your strengths and your limitations and your challenges, and being really honest about what's not working for you. Because the things that don't work for you are going to suck your energy and they'll suck your joy. And then that takes away from your teaching and it starts taking away from the things that you do love. Okay. So hopefully you have a few things there. And again, this is a quarterly review and we don't have to fix everything all within this upcoming quarter, but it's good to get an overview. So getting into a more practical side now, we've got some stuff that goes really well, that you really love, and things that are challenges, and things that you don't love. So the next question then is, you know, what are the things that you could do less of? And this is going to, again, free up a bit of time and energy. So are there any things that you can just cut out altogether? So this might be certain tasks that you're doing that just aren't really necessary, so you can stop doing them. That could be things that trying to think what else. So basically we have there's removing things, there's automating things, and there's delegating things. So some parts of your business or the way that you run it might just be unnecessary, so that you can just cut out those jobs. So, and it also within this, it might be that there is a class that might need to be dropped, and we'll look at that again when we look at numbers. So yeah, it's kind of cutting out all the unnecessary stuff that again is just sucking your energy. Then we come into automating, which I love, and I think it's a really important part of being a solo business owner, practitioner. You know, we are every department in our business, and it's really exhausting trying to do all of that. And one of the joys of modern technology is that a lot of things now we can automate so that we can free up a bit of time. So for example, you know, there's lots of scheduling devices available. So, you know, you could batch your social media for the month and put it in a scheduler, which will and that will automate it for you. So you can say the day and the time that you want these posts to go out. So you dedicate a certain amount of time to get that done, and then you don't have to think about it pretty much for a whole month. You might like to, batch a load of blog posts. You might get inspiration one day and write 3 or 4 blog posts, and then you could schedule them to go out once a month, and there's your next quarter's blog posts done for you. So automating, I think, is really important. Again, so for me as well, I use Acuity scheduling for a lot of my bookings. So that means people can book and pay online, and it's not anything I have to do. So it has removed the emails back and forth, or it's cut it down a lot. So there's a certain number of people who are happy to find me online, book and pay online, and then there's an automatic confirmation email goes out. There's an automatic reminder email that goes out. So again, this is a way that I've removed a job of phoning people or texting people to remind them of their appointments, which I was doing because it was a way to cut down kind of cancellation and no-show. But then going a step further and finding a system that automates that is like, well, now I still have the reminders go out, but it's not me that physically has to do it. So I'd look a lot at what can you automate that will make your life easier, and then what can you delegate? So delegate is generally hiring someone to do something for you. And I have started this year using a virtual assistant, and I love it, I have to say. And so that can be something that you might consider if you're at that point in your business where you've got a lot going on. And in order to grow, you need more than one person doing stuff. So there's a certain amount of things that I delegate, which again just frees up my time and energy to think more about the overall strategy and to do some jobs that only I can do. So if I'm trying to, maybe build a business relationship with another company or organization, that's something that I'm going to be doing. I'm not going to delegate that to somebody else. But things like, putting up some Facebook posts, as long as I've written them and done everything and saying, could you go around once a week and put some posts up for me? I don't have to do that. So that sort of frees up a little bit more time. So those things, the eliminate, automate, delegate, which was a nice trilogy that I'd picked up from Denise Duffield-Thomas, who I love following her podcast. These can be ways that we free up a lot of time. And also, sometimes it's worth paying a little to delegate the things that are essential but that you hate, because it will take somebody. So the things that you really just hate doing, for someone else, that's their joy. They go, I love getting spreadsheets done. I love organizing stuff. I love social media. I love all of this stuff. I love tech. I love making websites. So where it's someone else's joy, they will do it in a fraction of the time that it takes you. And this is what I found. So things that I hate, we procrastinate, we stop and make a cup of tea, or, find some ways to try and sweeten the process. And it takes ages. And then that makes you hate it even more. Or it's something that's maybe technically difficult, and then it's frustrating, and all that energy and time and emotion, if you can hand it over to someone else, very often, if we're wise about what we delegate, it doesn't have to cost a fortune, and the payoff is so much better. And also looking at things you can delegate outside of your business. So, I have a cleaner who comes once a fortnight for 2 hours. It's not lots, but the amount of time that frees up for me, because she does it so much more efficiently than I do, because I keep getting distracted by other jobs. But it's not her job to deal with some letter that's come through. So she's very focused, very efficient, does a great job, and it saves me so much time and energy, and it brings me that bit of joy. I'm like, oh, it's so nice to come home and someone's made it nice for me. You feel really cared for. It's lovely. So looking at what are the things that you can do less of, but then also looking at what could you do more of. So looking at, first of all, what are the things you love, particularly in terms of the clients that you want to work with. If you do a variety of things, what are the classes or the types of people that you really love working with, and could you do more of that? Could that start to help you create your niche? Or it may be that, for example, for me, is I actually prefer working one-to-one than doing group classes. And so a while back, I focused on that more. So I do have my Yoga for Cancer group classes, and I love doing them. But the thing that gives me the most joy, I think, is that one-to-one work that feels more personalized and therapeutic, and you can really customize a practice for somebody. So that's what I focused on in my own business. Other people are the other way around, where they're kind of freaked out by one-to-one work and they're much happier in a class with lots of people. So again, it's knowing yourself, and knowing what you would enjoy most. And so can you do more of what you love? Also in this, in the short term, when we look at what's working and what's not working, what one or two things would make the biggest difference to your business in terms of tasks to do? So would it be, for example, really focusing on one class and really marketing that with a lot of focus? Would it be, for example, batching your content? If you at the moment are in that hamster wheel of trying to make some content every day in one way or another, would you be able to set aside one day a month to batch a load of content? Would that make a big difference in terms of freeing up your time and energy? I think also, when we're talking about what makes a difference, this is where it helps to know what's working and what's not, so that we don't spend huge amounts of time and energy, perhaps in a marketing sense, when these things aren't actually getting you more customers or more students in your class. So you might have built up a big social media following, but if none of those people are buying from you, is it worth putting so much time and energy into something that's not giving you the result that you're looking for? So it depends what your goals are, what your targets are, but what, in the next 3 months, what one or two things could you start to implement or do more of that would make a big difference in your business? So coming on to numbers. Now, this is one of the things I love, doing my spreadsheets and analyzing my figures. I don't know why. I wasn't a really big maths person at school, but I think when it's your own business, then these numbers become meaningful. They're not just an abstract kind of making games and patterns out of numbers. It's like, this is meaningful and this reflects quality of life. So I would always encourage people to really know your numbers. You need to know where your income is coming from. So what's your biggest income stream? And what is most profitable in your business? So you may have something that doesn't make up a huge percentage overall of your income, but within itself might be really profitable. And these are things that are really important to know because, for example, so in my case, not only do I prefer one-to-one work generally, it also was clearly the most profitable aspect of my business in terms of my yoga teaching. And so that just made sense to me to really focus on that, and build that side of things. So when you know where your income's coming from and what is profitable and also what is not. So you may have a class that you love and it's pretty well attended. And so you feel like, oh, I'm doing really well. This class is going great. But when you do the numbers, you're actually not really earning very much from it. Then again, so maybe one of the things that you could change is your pricing. Or maybe if your rent is too high, could you renegotiate that or find a venue that's cheaper if people are able to come with you? So you need to know your numbers as well, because otherwise we can feel like we're working really hard and it feels like we're kind of successful. Like, you might have a lot of followers on social media, you might have classes that are reasonably full, but at the end of the day, you're not able to pay yourself very much. So it's knowing, where your income comes from and what's profitable. And then, so combining that kind of intellectual data with that heartfelt, what you love, then look at, is there something you can let go of? Sometimes people are feeling like they need to be very available to be successful and maybe are teaching a lot of classes a week, because I think, oh, well, not everybody could come, say, on a Friday afternoon. So, I should do something at the weekend and I should do something in the evening and I should do a morning class. And so they're trying to run, say, 5 or 6 classes in a week, and none of them are that well attended because they start to be spread thin, and it's hard to, like, every class that you do needs to be marketed separately. And that's a lot of work. So when you look at what you love and when you look at your numbers, maybe there's a class you could drop, or maybe even 2, and really try to consolidate and have, maybe just 2 or 3 classes that you build up slowly over time and have them be really profitable, and put your time and energy in a really focused place that you get more back. So that might be something that you could let go of. And again, looking at how much time and energy you have. If you have too much on offer and you're trying to market all of that, like, do you have the time and energy to do that? And some people are very high energy people and they can, and they're fine. But I know there's a lot of yoga teachers who are exhausted. And I think part of that is, offering too much and not making enough profit out of it. So looking at, maybe there's something you can let go of. looking at your numbers, you know, is there something you could change? So it might be your pricing structure, it might be your venue. So it's looking at what your income is and what your expenses are. And the very simple thing to make more money is you need more money coming in and less money going out. And it's always worth looking at your expenses and cutting out things that are unnecessary. But as a good friend said to me one time, it's like, you can't save your way to abundance or to wealth. So sometimes it's a false economy to cut expenses down so much, because sometimes we need to invest in something like paying for some software that automates things for us. You know, I found it was a huge difference for me. Like, I used the free version of Canva for a long time, but upgrading to the paid version wasn't extortionate, and actually it's just unlocked so many features that make my life easy now. It's like, it's really worth it for the time that I save. So sometimes cutting costs isn't always, it can be a false economy. But when you're looking at your expenses, if there are things that jump out as something that you've paid for that you don't use, it's like, well, cancel that subscription. Or, you know, something that you're paying for that feels really expensive and there might be a cheaper alternative. So looking at some things that you could change. And again, I would, you know, we talked about a pricing review at the beginning of the year. Wouldn't hurt to have another review now. If you didn't change your prices in January, then, you know, end of a financial year, again, it's not unreasonable to say to people, look, I've just done my accounts to, you know, the end of the financial year, and we've had a lot of inflation and it's time for prices to go up a bit. And if you do have a class that's quite successful and you regularly have people coming in, even putting it up by £1 or £2 per person, you know, that suddenly then could make a big difference. And that adds a lot. Again, if you're not doing one-to-ones, then, and it's something that you'd be interested in, again, I think that would be really worth doing. If you get one client who comes once a week, that's easily an extra £200 or £300 a month for you. So, you know, that's something that I think is always worth looking at, unless you just absolutely do not want to do that type of work. So don't force yourself to do something you don't like just because of the money. But I think it's worth a try. So yes, having looked at the numbers and what you love, so we're looking at what we can let go of, what you could change, and also looking at what you need. So is there something practical that you need? For example, for me, like upgrading my Canva account. Is there some help that you need? Is it what you need is more time for yourself, more sleep? You know, when we talked before about setting our weekly schedule, like, do you need to just carve out time to actually sit and have a proper lunch break? So looking at like what's missing in your life generally, so that work-life balance, are there things that you need to incorporate? And then lastly is just being really practical, thinking about this next 3 months, so April, May, June, which takes us almost up to school holidays. So what action are you going to take over these next 3 months? And this is what I like about a quarterly review, is that at the beginning of the year, we looked at goal setting overall for the year, and you might have a big goal for the year, and absolutely check in with that, because we might have set a big goal and then got distracted by things. So if you have a big goal for this year, again, go and check where you are with that and see, are there next steps for this quarter? What have you done so far? What are your next steps for the next quarter? And set yourself some specific and manageable, achievable goals for these next 3 months. And then knowing what things can wait that you can schedule for the following quarter, but getting some things in place now that are measurable, that you can check in 3 months' time, have you achieved it or not? So some very targeted, specific things. So it might be, you know, those 1 or 2 things that would make a big difference in your business. So when you go back through all these questions that we've talked through, so off the back of that information, pull out the things that are actionable and give yourself a time frame of what are the things that you're going to do now. Because sometimes when we look at the whole thing, it can just be so overwhelming. And I really know how that feels. And you just look at this impossible task, and then you sort of, it leads to a bit of shutdown. It's like, oh, I can't do that. It's too big. And then we just carry on as we were before, and then we never get to do the things that we want. So breaking it down into very manageable things, and sometimes, you know, a small change can make an enormous difference. So don't underestimate the value of making small, consistent changes over time. You know, and these are the things, often when I think about business, these are the things that we do, that we teach our students in terms of their yoga practice, isn't it? To say, well, of course, you're not going to get into this, you know, very extreme posture on day 1. It's going to take time and practice, and there's small incremental changes. And again, we might ask our students, like, what's your goal with yoga? Why are you doing yoga? Is there something physical going on for you? Is there a state of mind that you're looking to achieve? Is it the mental, emotional thing? So, you know, we might ask them, like, well, what are your goals? And then what are the steps that we need to help you achieve those? Because there's a million things we can do in yoga, and it varies a lot depending on the body that we're working with, the personality that we're working with, and what they want to get from their yoga. And so it's exactly the same with our business. So in a way, you can look at your business almost as one of your yoga students, or almost like that we are one of our own yoga students. Is like, what are our goals? What are the steps to get there? What's the small daily practice that we can do that's going to gradually get us where we want to be? So don't feel like you do a review and you have to overhaul everything and fix everything all at once. We need time to assimilate change. So just choose a few actionable things that you can do in the next 2 or 3 months. And then we can come back again, you know, maybe beginning of July, and go, okay, well, let's look at these last 3 months, look at the goals that you wrote down, and what ones can you tick off as done? What things now need tweaking, readjusting? And, you know, we get information in, we experiment with some new ways of working, see what works, what doesn't. We've got new information in and we can tweak again. So it's always in development, in process. You know, we're always in a process of becoming. It's never finished. So yeah, don't overload yourself with too much work. So I know today has been a longer session than we normally do, but it felt necessary to do something as big as a whole business review. So I hope that's given you something to work with, that you can make some real changes in your business this quarter. And I would really love to hear from you kind of when you've gone through this process, what some of your insights have been. And also, you can use the group for accountability. You can, if you want to set yourself a goal and a deadline, absolutely post it in the comments below here. Make yourself publicly accountable. It's a really good way to help you through those, through that inertia or that resistance or the blockages that we might have. I know for me, that's the thing that makes me get something finished, is when I know someone else is expecting it. So wishing you a really lovely week. Try and have fun with this. It doesn't have to be like a heavy process. Try and bring a little bit of levity and playfulness in it, and see where it takes you. So, we're allowed to change, we're allowed to adapt, we're allowed to let go of things that don't work for us. We're allowed to ask for things that we need. You're allowed to have fun in your work. So, we're in spring, even though it still feels chilly. But yeah, try and channel a little bit of that playful spring energy into your business. And I look forward to reading your comments. So have a lovely week, and I'll see you next time.